Good evening. I'll now call to order the City County Council meeting for Monday, July 16th, 2018. We'll begin our meeting with the prayer and Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Scales.
If we would bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, please guide this council body, our mayor and his advisors in the decisions we must make. Especially tonight, give each of us the insight to clearly know what is right, rather than making decisions based on selfish or political considerations. Let our democratic process be seen at its best this evening. I ask your blessing upon our city, its citizens, and for special shielding from harm for members of our fire and police departments charged with serving and protecting us. I pray these things for your glory, in honor of your purposes, and according to your will. Amen. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty, justice for all.
Let all councilors please select your green button to indicate your attendance. It'll be in a minute. All right. That's great. Councilor Jackson. Very good. There are 25 members present. The next item on our agenda is introduction of guests and visitors. Seeing no introductions. The next item on our agenda is Councilor Jackson.
I do. The family of Harry Tellifer, the young man who was shot last Thursday, is here, and they just want to hear Proposal 275 written into the record. Would you please stand and be recognized tonight? Thank you. Thank you very much.
The next item on our agenda is official communications. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, you are hereby notified that regular meetings of the City County Council and the Police, Fire, and Solid Waste Collection Special District Service District Councils will be held in the City County Building in the Council Chambers on Monday, July 16, 2018 at 7 p.m. The purposes of such meetings being to conduct any and all business that may properly come before regular meetings of the City County Council. Sincerely, Bob Osley, President, City County Council. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana, I cause to be published in the Court and Commercial Record and in the Indianapolis Star on Wednesday, June 27, 2018, a copy of public hearing on proposal number 229, 2018, said hearing to be held on Monday, July 16, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the Public Assembly Room of the City County Building. Respectfully, Sarita Hughes, Clerk of the City County Council. Ladies and gentlemen, I have approved with my signature and delivered this day to the Clerk of the City County Council, Sarita Hughes, the following ordinances. Fiscal ordinance numbers 7, 8, and 10 through 16, general ordinance numbers 45 through 48, special ordinance number 6 and 7, special resolution numbers 22 and 23. Joseph H. Hogsett, Mayor. Mr. President, this concludes the official communications.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have consent? The next item on our agenda is approval of journals for June the 18th, 2018. Do I have consent? We'll now proceed to presentation of petitions, memorials, special resolutions, and council resolutions. And the first item on our agenda is proposal number 241, introduced by Councilors Cordy, Jackson, Ray, and Johnson, which honors Warren Township Superintendent of Schools, Dina Cushenberry, upon her retirement.
Mr. President? Yeah.
Counselor.
Superintendent Cushenberry could not attend our last meeting due to an emergency, and since then, she's moved to Florida. So therefore, with consent, I would move for adoption, please.
All right, it's moving. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. The motion carries. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 284, introduced by Councilors McQuillan and Osili, which honors Kent B. Smith upon his retirement from an impressive 33 years of service in the United States military.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Smith, although retired, has not moved to Florida and has decided to join us today. City County Council Special Resolution number 25, 2018. A special resolution honoring Kent B. Smith upon his retirement from an impressive 33-year service in the United States military. Whereas, Kent B. Smith developed a coping skills program while stationed in Germany to teach military families how to manage transition to military life in Germany. His most cherished living memory is raising 3 wonderful children to become upright adults in our community. And whereas his military jobs included administrative specialist, healthcare NCO, behavioral health NCO, master resilience trainer, and recruiting and retention NCO, during his years in the military, he also managed to become an author, motivational speaker, and trainer, and anybody?
And whereas Kent B. Smith served on the Indianapolis City County Council from 2008 to 2010, and I was a colleague and was proud to be so. Serving as Vice President and Chair of the Community Development Committee, he also served as group facilitator, mentor with project mail responsibilities for over 16 years through the Center of Leadership Development. And whereas Kent B. Smith currently serves as one of the armor bearers for Pastor Dr. Henzie Green of Emmaus Christian Church. The wisdom he has gained from listening and learning from mighty men and women of God is enormous. But the greatest part of being an armor bearer is that you are close enough to receive the overflow of the anointing. It's like standing near a fire. The closer you get, the more intense the heat. He has learned everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. James 1, 1:19. And now, therefore,
be resolved by the City County Council of the City of Indianapolis of Marion County, Indiana. Section 1, the Indianapolis City County Council recognizes Kent B. Bent Smith for his years of service in the military. Section 2, the council extends its gratitude to Mr. Smith for giving of his time and talents to the social service agency, nonprofits, and small businesses, contributed greatly to the quality of life of Indianapolis residents and the growth of a healthy business climate in our city.
Section 3, the council wishes Mr. Smith many years of continued success in all of his endeavors. Section 4, the mayor is invited to join in this resolution for affixing his signature here too.
And Section 5, this resolution shall be in full force and effect upon adoption and compliance with Indiana Code 363414. The special resolution is sponsored by Councilors McQuillan and Osili, hopefully to be passed by the City County Council the 16th day of July 2018. And Mr. President, I so move. Second.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Back to the speakers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was honored to serve alongside of Councilor Smith for a few years during his tenure on the council, and we hated to see him go, and it's great to see him come back. But with your permission, Mr. President, I'd like to have Councilor Smith say a quick word or two.
Please proceed.
First of all, I'm back. No. And just be aware that those of you that have a very weak constituency, I might move to your area. I'm just saying no. No, that's not the plan. No, my goal is to continue service I'm a mortgage originator. I plan on helping families obtain housing. But alongside of that, I want to be actively involved in helping as many community development organizations to benefit our city. This time I'm gonna work from behind. So I'll be the guy that calls you guys up quite a bit, and I'm the guy that'll pop up at some of the meetings, and I do know the process, so I'll be deeply involved. But I'm going to encourage a lot of young people to get involved. The original purpose of the Center of Leadership Development was to prepare young men and women to sit on committees. And so as we are going to move that forward, I'm going to be pushing very, very, very hard for young men and women to be on your side and be in the trenches with you to help develop our community to what it needs to be. Have a fantastic life, and thank you.
These are for you. That's for you. Thank you so much, buddy. It's good seeing you. Thanks for being here.
The next item on our agenda is proposal number 285, introduced by Councilors Osley, Lewis, and Robinson, and honors Shannon Williams, former president and general manager for Recorder Media Group.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a special resolution honoring Shannon Williams, former president and general manager of the Recorder Media Group. Whereas Shannon Williams served as president and general manager of Indiana Minority Business Magazine and the Indianapolis Recorder newspaper, America's, America's fourth oldest serving African-American newspaper from 2010 through 2018. Whereas, after graduating from Jackson State University with a bachelor's degree in mass communication, Shannon began her career with the Recorder Media Group in 2000 as a marketing and circulation manager. Whereas, after showing her leadership qualities and superior ability, Shannon was swiftly promoted to assistant editor and then editor in 2002, which made her the youngest to hold such a title in the history of the company. Whereas,
after only 6 years at the Recorder, Shannon successfully reached vice president status and then was named president in 2010 at the age of 33. Whereas Shannon had received many local and regional and national awards for journalism, community advocacy, and leadership, her continued excellence had resulted in her being featured in Ebony magazine as one of the country's emerging leaders.
Be it resolved by the City County Council of the City of Indianapolis of the Marion County, Indiana, Section 1. The Indianapolis City County Council proudly recognizes Shannon Williams for over 17 years of dedicated and immeasurable service to the Recorder Media Group. Section 2. The City County Council wishes Shannon continued success in all future endeavors. Section 3. The mayor is invited to join in the resolution by affixing the signature hereto. And Section 4. This resolution shall be in full force and effect upon adoption and compliance with IC 36-3-4-14. This special resolution was sponsored by Councilors Osley, Lewis, and Robinson, and shall be passed, hopefully, by the City County Council on the 16th day of July, 2018. Mr. President, I so move. Second.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Back to the speakers.
Mr. President, members of the council would like to bring up the legendary Shannon Williams.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. I won't take too much of your time because I know you have a very full agenda, but I will say that it has truly been an honor to work for such a historic and legendary publication. The Recorder is truly a necessary and a viable entity in this community, and I am so honored to have been involved with the organization for 18 years. For all of those years and well beyond, for over 123 years actually, the Recorder has been a voice for the voiceless and has advocated for marginalized communities. And as hard as it was for me to leave the Recorder, those are some of the same qualities that really attracted me to the Mind Trust. As I get older, as time evolves, I realize that what matters most, despite, who we are as individuals, despite what professional entity we're aligned with, what matters most is that we do impactful work that is truly making a difference, a positive difference in individuals' lives. So that's what this council does every day. That's what I've been blessed to do for 18 years at the Recorder, and that's what I look forward to doing at the Mind Trust. So thank you so much, everyone, for this recognition. Thank you also to my Recorder family and the Mind Trust family, because they're all here with me today. So thank you again. I'm truly humbled. Oh. Oh. Oh, thank you.
Next item on our agenda is proposal number 298, introduced by Councilors Feaster, Evans, and McHenry, which recognizes the Speedway Sparkplug softball team for the 2018 Indiana High School Athletic Association IHSAA 2A state championship win.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I am being backed up by a group of amazing young ladies. This is the softball championship team from Speedway Sparkplugs. And we have not only a special resolution, but they've had a parade and front page on the paper in recognition of their achievements. So I will begin with the special resolution recognizing the Speedway Sparkplug softball team for their 2018 Indiana High School Athletic Association 2A state championship. Go girls! Whereas the Speedway Lady Sparkplugs won the 2018 IHSAA 2A state championship game on June the 19th, 2018, defeating Bremen High School. And whereas the Lady Sparkplugs are the first female state title team who has won the first sectional, regional, semi-state, and IHSAA 2A state title in the school's history. And whereas the Lady Sparkplugs finished the season with a 13-game winning streak, outscoring opponents 39-5 and 22-6-1 record for the season. And
whereas the team has been led by head coach Alicia Coleman and assistants Carl Finters and Kathy Gregory, and whereas the team's roster consists of 10 freshmen, 1 sophomore, 5 juniors, and 4 seniors. And excuse me if I pronounce your names wrong. Reilly Wade, Nikki Ray, Paige Rush, Emma DeVault, Rachel Gregory, Brooke Hartman, Lane Cooper, Katie Indris, Josie Frey, Katie Turnquist, Alexis Laughlin, Madison Golden, Kylie Mann, Hannah Lindsay, Jackie Eversole, Kaya Finters, Madison Barnes, Alexa Faulkner, Kendall Short, and Molly Greiner. And whereas freshman Kaya Finters led the team with a 1-hit shutout in 7 innings. Wow. And senior Riley Wade won the 2018 IHSAA Class 2A Mental Attitude Award. That's impressive. Granting a $1,000 scholarship to Speedway High School. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City County Council of the City of Indianapolis and Marion County, Indiana.
Go figure, I'm here today to talk about another West Side team winning a state championship. Section 1, the Indianapolis City County Council proudly recognizes the Speedway Sparkplug softball team for their 2018 Indiana High School Athletic Association 2A state championship. Section 2, the council extends its congratulations to the entire team, coaching staff, and school administration on their achievement and wishes each player great success in their future endeavors, both athletically and academically. Section 3, the mayor is invited to join in this resolution by affixing his signature here too. Section 4, this resolution shall be in full force and effect upon adoption and compliance with IC 36-3-4-14. This special resolution was sponsored by Councilors Feasters, myself, and McHenry, and I so move.
Second.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Back to the speakers.
Thank you so very much. I really can't say how proud I am of these young ladies. I think their mental attitude is just fine. And I asked them if they would have a spokesperson to address you for a minute or two.
Hi, Council. This is such an honor to be in front of you guys, and thank you so much for the special recognition. But please forgive me when I say it's more of an honor to have served these ladies as a coach. They are an amazing group who really embodied the go big or go home kind of attitude this season. First time in school history to win a sectional, then onto a regional, a semi-state, and then a state. It was unbelievable. I was a player at Speedway also, and it was better being a coach and seeing their success than it was even as mine as a player. So I hope with this season you guys maybe come out next season and support us. They're a great group of girls, and again, thank you so much for this special recognition.
Go Plugs.
Yes, go Plugs.
And you have 4 seniors, so that means most of you will be back next year. So we would love to have you back down here again next year as well.
The next item on our agenda is proposal number 299, introduced by Councilor McHenry, which honors St. Theodora Excellence in Education Award recipient Lynn Locke.
You know, as a former teacher, it always really thrills me to be able to honor a teacher for someone like Mrs. Locke. And I will say, in talking to different students, different people, different parents, they have nothing but good things to say about her. And that is really a testament in itself, where the people that she has worked with realize her how much she does. This special resolution honoring St. Theodore Excellence in Education Award recipient Lynn Locke. Whereas Ms. Lynn Locke teaches junior high theology and social studies at Cardinal Ritter Junior Senior High School in Indianapolis, and whereas her commitment to the school is amazing. She has coached 3 academic challenge teams to championships in the past 3 years, and coordinates the 8th grade class trip to New Albany and St. Louis so that the students can learn more about the legacy of Cardinal Joseph E. Ritter. And whereas Lynn is not only committed to Cardinal Ritter, but to the community as well. She prepares and serves meals to families of hospitalized children at the Ronald McDonald House here in Indianapolis. And whereas Lynn lives her life in evangelizing the Catholic faith through the manner in which she lives. Generations of students are not only smarter, but better people because of the guidance and teachings of Lynn. And whereas Lynn's depth of caring for her students is one of the reasons that she is this year's recipient of the St. Theodora Excellence in Education Award, the highest honor for a Catholic educator in the Archdiocese. And whereas when asked about the lasting impact Lynn hopes to have on her students, she said, "I hope they always love to learn and they always look for ways to get greater knowledge about anything. I hope they understand the love that Christ has for them and the importance of going to heaven one day. and hopes that they remember that she cared for them and truly wants what is best for them. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City County Council of the City of Indianapolis and of Marion County, Indiana, Section 1, the City County Council recognizes St. Theodora Excellence in Education Award recipient Lynn Locke. Section 2, the City County Council acknowledges the many contributions, accomplishments, dedication, and hard work of Ms. Locke. Section 3, the mayor is invited to join in this resolution by affixing his signature hereto. Section 4, this resolution shall be in full force and effect upon adoption and compliance with IC 363414. This special resolution was sponsored by Councilors Cordy, Ray, Jackson. I think we've got a mistake here. This special resolution was sponsored by Councilor McHenry and was passed by the City County Council this 16th day of July 2018, and I so move.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Back to the speakers.
Anne, would you like to say a few words? You don't have to say it long, just a couple words.
I love to be with kids, but adults
I know.
makes me nervous. Anyway, thank you so much, Councilor McHenry. Thank you to the City County Council. I have some friends with me here today. You know, recognitions like this are not done by oneself. There's a whole community at Cardinal Ritter that supports all of our students there. And so I have, our principal is here, Mr. Palich, and a couple of my friend teachers are here, Carrie Gurman and Rula Saida, and also our campus minister is here, Sarah Castillo. So thank you to all of you and all the members of the Cardinal Ritter staff for your support. Thank you.
I will get this corrected. And
The next item on our agenda is proposal number 286, introduced by Councilors Kreider and Osili, strongly urges the Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation, Indigo, to establish a veterans ride-free program for its fixed routes.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a special resolution strongly urging the Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation to establish a veterans ride-free program for its fixed routes. Whereas unquestionably Indianapolis veterans of the armed services have sacrificed beyond belief to secure Americans' liberties, rights, and security, both at home and abroad. Upon returning home, veterans often face significant challenges with reacclimating to civilian life. And whereas an estimated 48,000 veterans of the armed services are living within Marion County, Indiana, more than 14,000 have disabilities, and up to 1,300 are homeless. And whereas the City of Indianapolis and Marion County taxpayers, through programs delivered by the Department of Metropolitan Development, provide financial resources to social service organizations that work with veterans to remove barriers. And whereas in Indianapolis, public and nonprofit organizations expend funds to address barriers in securing employment, health care, mental health services, healthy food, legal and education services for veterans. And whereas the Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation is a municipal corporation of the Indianapolis, Marion County, and its operation is funded primarily by Marion County property and income taxes. And whereas Indigo provides vital access to dozens of Indianapolis destinations where veterans receive services to address barriers to self-sufficiency. Too often these veterans are unable to access these vital services due to limited transportation options or because of the cost of transportation. And whereas providing fare, free access to Indigo fixed routes for all veterans in Marion County will make significant positive impacts in the health, well-being, and self-sufficiency of veterans that are the most vulnerable. Whereas the Indianapolis City County Council recognizes that Indigo currently collects fares directly from veterans in addition to revenue for ticket sales from organizations serving veterans in an amount that is estimated at more than $150,000 annually. Now therefore, be it resolved, Section 1, in honor of the undeniable sacrifices made by veterans of the armed services and to positively impact the health, economic, and social outcomes of veterans living in Marion County, the council fully supports and strongly urges Indigo to establish a fare-free program for veterans living in Marion County. Section 2, the council recommends that the fare-free program for veterans shall be limited
to local fixed route bus services within Marion County and shall not extend to paratransit, flexible, or demand response services operated by Indigo, its contractors, or private sector mobility partnerships. Section 3, the mayor is invited to join this resolution by affixing his signature here too, which he has done. And Section 4, this resolution shall be in full force and effect upon adoption in compliance with state law. And I so move, Mr. President.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. And
Motion carries, and back to the speaker.
thank you, Mr. President. With your indulgence, just a few words. This represents a culmination of 2 years of work for me personally. But before that, it was about 2 additional years. A guy named Don Hawkins, who's in our audience this evening, from the MACV. Initially, this program started out with paper passes, which proved to be inefficient, and the program slowly faded away until it was reinstated our first year for the freshmen on the council. And continued because of the hard work of people like Julie Fiddler in our office and Matt Hall from the Veteran Services Office, who's here this evening as well, if he wants to raise his hand, although he's being shy. And we finally pushed it across this final line for a permanent ID pass with the help of our president, State Representative Macer, and our Veterans Court liaison, Gordon Smith, and along with the good folks at Indigo, Mike Terry and Brian Llewellyn. So this Wednesday at 1 o'clock at the Transit Center, they will be issuing the first ID passes. But I do want to caution that this is not a permanent program yet. They will be changing their fee structure next year, and they will need some resources. So it'll be incumbent upon the council, the administration, Indigo, to continue this program, and I hope that my colleagues will do so, and I'd urge you to do that. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is proposal number 200, referred to Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. Chairman Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal 200-2018 appoints Tracy McQueen to the Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team. Mrs. McQueen stated that she is an original member of the Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team starting in 2008, taking a break for medical leave. She then returned and has been with the Department of Child Services for 19 years. She helped create the policy with the state of Indiana around domestic violence and child welfare. Councilor Simpson moved, seconded by Councilor Scales, to send proposal number 200 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. Motion carried by a vote of 9-0, Mr. President. I so move.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any comments from councilors? All right, seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. We're going to do it the... Motion carries 25-0. The next item on our agenda is introduction of proposals. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal numbers 253 through 255 all refer to the Administration and Finance Committee and were introduced by Councilor Simpson. Proposal number 253 reappoints Janae Downs to the Equal Opportunity Advisory Board. Proposal number 254 reappoints Marion Faye Godwin to the Equal Opportunity Advisory Board. Proposal number 255 reappoints Douglas Hunsinger to the Equal Opportunity Advisory Board. Proposal number 256, introduced by Councilor Mascari, referred to the Community Affairs Committee, reappoints John Barth to the Public Art for Neighborhoods Selection Committee. Proposal numbers 257 through 267 all refer to the Metropolitan and Economic Development Committee. Proposal number 257, introduced by Councilor Lewis, appoints Brian Robinson to the Metropolitan Board of Zoning Appeals, Division 1. Proposals number 258 through 265 were introduced by Councilors Lewis, Adamson, and Miller. Proposal number 258 appoints Edward Batista to the Greater Virginia Avenue Corridor Economic Improvement District Board. Proposal number 259 appoints Matt Creamer to the Greater Virginia Avenue Corridor Economic Improvement District Board. Proposal number 260 appoints Jacob Dietrich to the Greater Virginia Avenue Corridor Economic Improvement District Board. Proposal number 261 appoints Terry Garcia to the Greater Virginia Avenue Corridor Economic Improvement District Board. Proposal number 262 appoints Mike Halstead to the Greater Virginia Avenue Corridor Economic Improvement District Board. Proposal number 263 appoints Trinity Hart to the Greater Virginia Avenue Corridor Economic Improvement District Board. Proposal number 264 appoints Linda Osborne to the Greater Virginia Avenue Corridor Economic Improvement District Board. Proposal number 265 appoints Paul Smith to the Greater Virginia Avenue Corridor Economic Improvement District Board. Proposal number 266, introduced by Councilor Lewis, confirms the mayor's appointment of Brian Madison as the Director of the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services. Proposal number 267, introduced by Councilor Simpson, designates a portion of Michigan Road north of Fox Hill Court to 63rd Street and a portion of 63rd Street from Michigan Road to 3 residences each, east of Betcher as the Bishop Edwin Hamilton Vaughn Memorial Way. Proposal number 268 through 274 all refer to the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee and were introduced by Councilor Robinson. Proposal number 268 appoints Nancy Swiganski to the Reuben Engagement Board. Proposal number 269 appoints Chris Dusenberry to the Early Intervention Planning Council. Proposal number 270 approves a lease by the Board of the Office of Public Health and Safety as governing body of the Public Safety Communication System and Computer Facilities District to finance upgrades to various structures, equipment, and systems designed to allow various public safety and other entities within Marion County access to interoperable radio communication systems and improvements related thereto. Proposal number 271 approves a lease by the Board of the Office of Public Health and Safety as a governing body of the Public Safety Communication Systems and Computer Facilities District to finance the replacement of radio equipment for the Marion County Sheriff's Office and other entities related to community justice and civil law enforcement in Marion County and improvements related thereto. Proposal number 272 approves a lease by the Board of the Office of Public Health and Safety as governing body of the Public Safety Communication Systems and Computer Facilities District to finance the replacement of radio equipment for various police departments and related public safety entities within Marion County and improvements related thereto. Proposal number 273 approves a lease by the Board of the Office of Public Health and Safety as governing body of the Public Safety Communication System and Computer Facilities District to finance the replacement of radio equipment for entities that provide fire, rescue, and/or emergency medical services within Marion County and improvements related thereto. Proposal number 274 approves a lease by the Board of Public Health and Safety as governing body of the Public Safety Communication Systems and Computer Facilities District to finance the replacement of radio equipment for governmental entities in Marion County that do not provide first responder or local or law enforcement services and improvements related thereto. Proposal number 275, referred to the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, introduced by Councilors Jackson and Adamson, recognizes gun violence as a public health crisis in Indianapolis. Proposal numbers 276 through 282 all refer to the Public Works Committee. Proposal number 276, introduced by Councilor Simpson, authorizes a speed limit reduction to 25 miles per hour in the Grandview Gardens, Hoover Park, Stony Brook, Delaware Trails, and West Lane Terrace subdivisions in District 7. Proposal number 277, introduced by Councilor Miller, authorizes intersection controls at Cap Street and Westview Drive in District 16. Proposal number 278, introduced by Councilor Jackson, authorizes intersection controls in the Carroll Farms subdivision in District 14. Proposal number 279, introduced by Councilor Jackson, authorizes a speed limit reduction to 25 miles per hour within the Carroll Farms subdivision in District 14. Proposal number 280, introduced by Councilor Gray, authorizes a speed limit reduction to 25 miles per hour in the Saddlebrook subdivision in District 8. Proposal number 281, introduced by Councilor Clay, authorizes intersection controls at Eastbourne Drive and Radnor Roads in District 13. Proposal number 282, introduced by Councilor Evans, authorizes a speed limit reduction to 25 miles per hour within several subdivisions in the Lyndhurst Drive and Morrisville Road area in District 22. Proposal number 283, introduced by Councilor Evans, referred to the Rules and Public Policy Committee, establishes a study commission to review and analyze information gathered from infrastructure experts and to recommend operational policy changes and potential long-term funding options. Mr. President, this concludes the introductions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on our agenda is special orders, priority business. And that first item is on our agenda is proposal number 282, referred to Public Works Committee. Chairman Adamson. Apologies. 252. Councilor Adamson. Councilor Lewis. Chairwoman Lewis, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal number 252 authorizes the issuance of an economic development multifamily housing revenue notes for Amber Woods in a principal amount not to exceed $25 million for the purpose of financing a portion of the cost of acquisitions, renovation, and equipping a multifamily housing facility known as Amber Woods. Amber Wood consists of a 200 apartment units located at 10202 John J. Drive, District 14, which is Councilor Jackson's district, and approves and authorizes other actions in respect to.
I see where I made a mistake. Thank you.
In respect to thereto, representatives from Ice Miller and Flaherty Collins Properties gave a brief presentation. This is a venture between Flaherty Collins and Pathway Learning Center. Again, the scope of the work is 200 units rehabbed and brought to current standards, 20 units converted to ADA, exterior roofs, windows, siding, ADA sidewalks and asphalts, drywall, hard surface flooring cabinets, and countertops. Councilor Jackson stated that this project is in her district and is something that will reduce crime rates as well as provide affordable housing for 200 families. Councilor Evans did ask questions of Flaherty Collins regarding what they are doing currently to address crime on their properties. Mr. Miller stated that at Amber Woods, they are pretty plugged in with the community and with HUD. Some of their programs help foster education training, resume building, Big Brother programs, etc. They also stated that they work with the police by providing a space for them to come in and have coffee and work with the current residents. The proposal passed out of committee by a vote of 8-0. Mr. President, I so move.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. Any comments from councilors? Councilor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do support this proposal, Proposal 252, as it will keep families, 200 families in affordable housing for another 25, 30 years and up to quality. However, I ask that I may abstain my voting for what may be perceived a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councilor Jackson. Are there any additional comments from councilors? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. Motion carries. The vote of 24 yeas, 1 abstention. Proposal number 287 is a rezoning ordinance certified for approval by the Metropolitan Development Commission on July the 5th, 2018. If no councilor wishes to call down the proposal for reconsideration, the proposal will pass into law. Does anyone wish to call down the proposal for reconsideration? All right, seeing no one, the proposal will pass into law. Proposal 288 is a rezoning ordinance certified for approval by the Metropolitan Development Commission on June 29th, 2018. If no councilor wishes to call down the proposal for reconsideration, the proposal will pass into law. Does anyone wish to call down the proposal for reconsideration? All right, seeing no one, the proposal will pass into law. Proposals number 289 through 296 are all rezoning ordinances certified for approval by the Metropolitan Development Commission on June the 29th, 2018. If no councilor wishes to call down the proposals for reconsideration, the proposals will pass into law. Does anyone wish to call down any of the proposals for reconsideration? All right, seeing no one, the proposals will pass into law. Proposal number 297 is a rezoning ordinance certified for denial by the Metropolitan Development Commission on July the 5th, 2018. If no councilor wishes to call down the proposal for reconsideration, the MDC's denial will stand. Does anyone wish to call down the proposal for reconsideration? All right, seeing no one, the proposal will stand as denied. The next item on our agenda is special orders public hearing. And that first item on our agenda is proposal number 229, referred to Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. Chairman Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal 229, 2018 approves an additional appropriation of $400,000 in the 2018 budget of the Office of Public Health and Safety and the Consolidated County General Fund to support the Violence Reduction Initiative. Shauna Majors, the Director of Community Violence Reduction of OPHS, stated that in 2017, Mayor Joseph Hogshead announced his violence reduction plan, having targeted law enforcement, community development, and resources for the community. She said that this $400,000 is to be used for the resource component of the plan to distribute grants to groups targeting those most likely to be victims or commit violent crime. The funds will also support technical assistance to the groups and evaluation of their programming. Ms. Major said that the salary and benefits for her position and the 4 peacemakers is not included in this request. That money will come from the current OPHS budget due to unfulfilled positions. Councilor Coates moves, seconded by Councilor Feaster, to send proposal number 229 to the full council. They do pass recommendation. Motion passed by vote of 9-0. Mr. President, I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any comments from fellow councilors? Seeing no one, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to proposal 229?
Yes, Larry Vaughn. I'm here tonight because we brought this issue up in our meeting at the Concerned Clergy this weekend, and I understood that they made it clear that positions of the peacemakers would be to evaluate and to the progress of programs that did receive grants. And the Concerned Clergy has a program that we are having something to offer these people that we tell to give up a violent life other than being an OG, that which I'm not, and I'm not a criminal, so I hope I qualify, because what my part would be is to find these programs and find people that were eligible to actually get into the trade unions and direct them in that direction. So I think that this will be a good program if we have something, a component that would find these young men before they actually get involved into the criminal system and get them into a trade program where they could earn an honest living for themselves rather than to have them go play basketball or go to some day camp, to go on the actual jobs that are being performed here in town with the council's money to work their apprenticeship, and I think I would fill those positions. I have not talked to Shauna at this time, but I will in the future, but I just wanted to alert her that I would be in contact with her because of this issue, but it's a good program, and I'm glad the city's going to spend money on it. But when you get violence reduction, you have to have some alternative to offer those people that you want to stop the violent lifestyle. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments?
Yes, I'd like to say just a few words. My name's Gene Parsley, and I live in District 16, Jeff Miller's district. And along this proposal, I want to encourage the council to continue to be more proactive when it comes to gun violence, crimes, criminal justice. I'm glad to see the Criminal Justice Center finally being built. But I want to see the council to be more proactive in addressing these items. If Indianapolis wants to be a world-class city like we all want it to be, and to lure large companies here, such as Amazon, we have to address these issues before they become a problem. And this not only relates to crime, but also to other ordinances. When companies bring new ideas to the city, the council needs to be more proactive in taking a look at those ordinances. And it also needs to be looking at more opportunities for the city to be a forefront, a leader in the United States to make decisions and to bring on new initiatives. And I'd also like the council to strongly consider removing the ban on light rail so in the future, so that way we definitely need to address that, at least in the downtown area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jock Sturdivant. I am a born resident of Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm also an OG in the community. I think there are a couple of things need to be addressed, but specifically towards gun violence. I've lived in some of the worst neighborhoods possible in Indianapolis. I've lived on Post Road when it was really bad. I was a member of a gang called City of Crazies, which operated on Martin Luther King, just south of 16th Street. During my early 20s, I did what was called positive rap. And I would bring up things like stopping the killing or saying no to drugs or prostitution. Sometimes my message was a bit, I guess, harsh, but I didn't use any vulgarity, any cuss words, and my message was able to reach a lot of people. It got to the point where at Fall Creek, when they had the YMCA there, we would perform every year on stage. It was a paid-for event by the YMCA. Of course, everyone knows that facility is not there anymore, and there's no funding coming for something of that nature. I can honestly say that most of these young men and women carrying these guns is out of fear and misguidance and no structure. And sometimes just a positive word can reach them in ways you or I may not be able to. So I think that some money, some funding should go towards people who are willing to send that message, a positive message to the youth, you know, to reach some of those people that most of us can't. The ones that think they're so cool or so thugged out, we can reach them. I know we can. We have in the past, and it's possible. But like the gentleman said, once we get them, we got to know what to do with them. We got to send them, give them avenues and places where they can grow, you know, mentally and physically, you know, not just basketball, you know, but programs to guide them. Even religion. I mean, religion is that's me. I mean, I believe in God with all my might, and I believe that's the reason I came down here today, because God led me to say this. So without going into any long details or anything like that, I think that the gentlemen, the young men and women will start to put down the guns when they can start to pick up a book or an instrument or, something to guide them, a tool that'll get them out of the streets. Most of the people in the streets and joining these gangs, it's because they're afraid, because they're the one against many. So they try to find somebody to partner with to have their back in these streets. I mean, it's sad, but it's true, so.
Mr. Sturvant, if you want to wrap that up, we do appreciate your comments.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say thank you for your time and your attention. And like I said, if we can get some kind of programs or something going in the community, it would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments?
Yes, my name's Antonio Lipscomb. I'm president of Minority Contractors Collaboration. I'm also the president of Love Life Outreach Vocational Training. And I basically want to just commend you guys for considering on how we can work together through a city council to make sure we address this area of violence. Personally affected by gun violence. My brother was killed about 8 weeks from now, and so we're still recovering from that incident. But and I'm just here to kind of re-echo the comments that's already been made. It's very important that we do give those individuals something to do. I almost can't say those individuals, because they're just as part of me as anyone else. So with our Minority Contractors Collaboration, we not only look to just lead guys into jobs, but we also concerned about business development. As you all know, drug dealers are business owners. They may not distribute the type of product that we approve of, but if we could channel those skill sets into a different way so that they can understand that they can make a livable wage in the right way, then we're very passionate about that. So we do have programming in place to help individuals start their businesses, and also with Love Life Outreach, we're one of the programs that's going into jail too, to help with the reentry part of pods of jail too. So when those individuals get out of jail, they'll have a education, a certification. Upon completion, we hook them up with our community partners to help them with their wraparound services. Simultaneously, we plug them into a permanent job. And I want to be very clear, a lot of the young men we're talking about is African-American males. And so I do want to say that it's not a sin to say African-American males. We do really need to be specific, because that's the majority of the population that's behind the bars right now. And we have a 93% enrollment rate of African-American males. We have a 83% completion rate of African-American males, and we have a 100% job placement. Last time I was here—
Mr. Lipscomb, we need you to wrap that up.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
Last time I was here, someone in the audience heard what we were saying and allowed us to have an article in the IBJ. And so for that person that done that article, I do want to say thank you to them, and I look forward to working with all you councilmen. Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any additional comments from anyone in the audience? All right, seeing no one, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. Councilor Clay.
As we contemplate this appropriation for $400,000 for what is being represented as Violence Reduction Initiative, we certainly support what we believe the intent of the program is, but we ought not consider it without also punctuating and reminding my colleagues of the $300,000 that this body appropriated for Witness Protection Program, both of which, for their success, need a very deliberate public launch, because you can have a great program, but if the community does not know that it exists, then the fruits of that program will be limited. So while we support this violent initiative, reduction initiative, Proposal 229, we support it without reservation. I would also seize this moment to remind the prosecutor who gives oversight to that witness protection money to make those dollars available, because as one of the citizens just mentioned, people are afraid, Mr. President, and a lot of times they witness what happens in these communities, but they are reluctant to come forward to provide meaningful evidence as to what happened because they are afraid. Those dollars, that $300,000, as you know, Mr. President, was identified, and colleagues, you know, was set aside to address and to mitigate some of that fear, to reduce some of these homicide numbers. So I would just want to link these two together just by association, in that they are both worthy of our support, but neither one of them will have the fruit unless they have the kind of hard launch that they need, so the community knows that the money is there, so they can apply for it on one end, and so they can make use of it in the witness protection on the other end. Thank you for the time, Mr. President.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any additional comments from councilors? All right, seeing no one, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. The motion carries 25-0. We'll now proceed to special orders, unfinished business. There is no business under special orders, unfinished business. We'll now proceed to special orders, final adoption. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 120, referred to Public Works Committee. Chairman Adamson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal number 120 amends the code to add a new section, section 431-605, to prohibit dockless bike share and or hire program in the public rights of way. Councilor Osley moved, seconded by Councilor Gray, to amend proposal number 120 as detailed in Exhibit A. Brian Madison, Director, and Sonia Cedar, Administrator for Permits and Licensing in the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services, made a brief presentation. What this presentation told us was what the ordinance addresses, and that is it creates the rules that a business must comply with to begin operating this type of business, determines how devices can be parked in the public right-of-way, establishes enforcement tools to address business noncompliance, and does not make changes to the existing code prohibiting the use of these devices on sidewalks and greenways. What the ordinance does is it will be illegal to operate a shared mobility device in the public right-of-way unless that business obtains a license from the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services. The license will regulate, among other things, a cap on the number of devices, locations where the devices may be parked when not in use, limits on geographic area where the devices may operate, and standards for use and maintenance of the devices. Mr. Madison stated that the motorized devices are not allowed to operate on sidewalks, greenways, and trails such as the Monon Trail and the Cultural Trail, nor through the parks system. Councilor Osley moved, seconded by Councilor Gray, to send proposal number 120 to the full council with a due pass recommendation as amended recommendation. That motion carried by a vote of 6-1, with Councilor McHenry casting the lone negative vote. And with that, I so move.
Motion's been properly moved and seconded. Comments from councilors. Councilor Mascari.
Thank you, President. Is anyone here from Lyme that I can ask one question? Okay, you rent a scooter, you fill out the claim for it, and you accept it. Then, okay, I'm going down the road, the brakes go out, a truck smashes me and kills me. Who's liable for that? It's the responsibility of the scooter. You have $5 million worth of liability. Are you covering it?
So that's not a question I'm willing to answer without our in-house counsel.
Do you have your attorney here?
They are not present.
I mean, you're required to have $5 million worth of insurance, correct?
Yes, that's correct. I believe so.
Okay, so if I was to crash the scooter and it was my fault, I can understand that. But if the scooter, the brakes go out and I get run over by a truck, who's liable? You can't answer that question?
Again, without in-house counsel here, I'm not going to be able to answer that. Apologize.
Okay. You know, I'm not against the scooters. 10 years ago, I had an electric scooter. It didn't have any range, but now they do. And all the kids chase me around wanting to ride it. So
They are
but
fairly
it'd be
popular.
interesting to see who, is there anyone here? I understand Kip 2 is representing you, aren't he? You can't answer that either?
Thank you, Councilor Mascari. I think the general laws that apply to product liability and/or torts would apply in this situation. It would be up to the courts to decide where the liability lies.
Mhm. So it really, realistically, you could be liable? Line?
Potentially,
Scooter
yes.
company. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Adamson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment for this proposal as well, and this amendment was reached with conversations with Department of Business Neighborhood Services, Office of Corporation Counsel, as well as conversations on the proposal that was passed out of committee with the operators themselves. So these are some of the things that we had come up with that we thought would make it a better proposal. Councilors have a copy of this on their stations, so let's see, I would move to amend proposal number 120 as the previously amended in committee by deleting the language that is stricken through and adding the underlined language in the highlighted portions to read as follows. And go on to page 2, number 6, striking the word disabled with and adding in after person with a disability. The next line, operator means a person or entity that owns and operates a shared mobility, and we're striking device from a operator and adding the word system. Next line, we're striking point to point. In section 905-102 in subsection C, striking on the last day of the calendar year which it is issued and replacing it with 1 year after the issuance of the license. And then at the end, adding the words and renewal. Page 3, subsection 2, strikes the words on inventory and adds a description, and then strikes the word shall and adds will to be used as a shared mobility system. Strikes the words a description of, and then strikes serial number unique identifier. Go down to section 905-104, changes the numbering system with A, and then adds a subsection B. Notwithstanding sections 441-371, shared mobility devices that may be operated on bicycle lanes, subject to the regulation by the license administrator. Page 4, subsection C, adds the words, and shall be considered an emergency for purposes of emergency suspension under the section 801-413 of this code. Section 905-106 in subsection C deletes the word identifier and adds the word ID number, and adds the words and nearby pedestrians. Subsection D strikes the words in every shared mobility device with a motor shall be equipped with a speedometer, strikes that part, and then adds there shall be only one person on a shared mobility device at a time. Subsection H, users may not ride a shared mobility device while controlling an animal, either by hand or on leash. Subsection I changes number 3 and strikes the word and, add in subsection 4, adds the words and. Number 5 adds users must confirm during the sign-up stage and on a standalone page their agreement to comply with user requirements. Changes lettering for I and K, and section 905-107 adds enforcement and penalties to the title. Section A removes the number 2 and adds the word 2 with the 2 in parentheses, and then goes down and strikes the number 6 and adds the word 6 with 6 in parentheses. Subsection C in 905-107 strikes the letter I, adds J, and then adds the words pursuant to section 103-52 of this code. Subsection E adds the words, "In addition to enforcement procedures and the penalties set forth in Chapter 801, a shared mobility systems operator first violation for any provision of this chapter in a 12-month period, including but not limited to the operation of shared mobility system that is not licensed or not in compliance with the requirements of this chapter, shall be subject to an admission of violation and payment of the designated civil penalty through the Ordinance Violation Bureau in accordance with Chapter 103. A shared mobility system operator's second and subsequent violations on the 12-month period are subject to the enforcement procedures and penalties provided in subsection 103-3. In section 905-8 and subsection A, strikes the word 6, adds the word 4 and the number 4. Page 6, subsection E, subsection 1, adds the words "or public right-of-way" and strikes the word ADA, and then adds the word "pursuant to the Americans with Disability Act of 1990," and then strikes the word BRT and adds the words "bus rapid transit." Subsection 3 adds the words "or spaces for people with disabilities." Subsection 6 must be at least 10 feet from any entrance or exit. Section F adds the words "unless approved by the licensed administrator or on any private property without the permission of the property owner and compliance with applicable zoning codes." Section 905-109 strikes the word "bike share" and adds the word "shared mobility." Section 905-110, enforcement and penalties, is entirely stricken. Section 905 changes 112 to 110. Section 905-11 strikes the word "article" and adds the word "chapter." Page 7, Section 3 strikes the words, the numbers 905-106 and adds the words "and" 905-108, and then adjusts the schedule of code provisions to strike the 905-106 and adds the 905-108 illegally parked shared mobility device at a civil penalty of $25. And with that, I so move, Mr. President.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any comments from councilors? Councilor Gray. What I'll do, I will ask if there is anyone in the audience who can address that from our administration. Yeah, Councilor Gray, would you repeat your question, please? Yes, Mr. Cook.
Yeah, hi, my name is Thomas Cook. I'm Mayor Joe Hogshead's Chief of Staff. That's a great question. Obviously, the entrance of the scooters to the city over the last month has raised a variety of enforcement issues that I think we're continuing to work with the companies and with our public safety officials on. As to how many officers we might need, I'm not sure we have an answer to that. I can say I think a lot of this is going to be a balance between having law enforcement officials be available for really egregious and unsafe infractions, just as we have right now with bikes and other forms of transportation. But a lot of this, I think, is going to be on the companies themselves to better educate their users as to what the existing laws are. Obviously, I think up until a month or so ago, most Indianapolis residents had not ridden a motorized scooter anywhere or any time. So a lot of this is going to be education. A lot of this is going to be relying on the companies, and that's why I think it's important that this ordinance and the regulatory framework that the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services is putting together will require the companies to do a better job of educating the users on the front end before they're allowed to get on a scooter, so that even as we will have public safety officials available as they are all across the county, if they see an offense, to stop somebody and either issue an infraction or inform them that they're not following the laws. As with most laws, we're going to want people to voluntarily be educated and comply with them because they're good citizens, not necessarily because they know a police officer's watching them.
Thank you. Councilor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we're going to see tonight this get passed, and I think what's important for the city to realize is, this body acted quickly to try to put reasonable rules in place. I have probably not had as many people emailing, calling, tweeting, Facebooking me on an issue in quite some time as I have the scooters, and people are either on the side of ban them all, why are they here, or why do you have any rules at all, let them do whatever they want. Neither is an acceptable answer. And so I applaud this body and the administration for taking this seriously, sitting down and trying to come up with reasonable rules of operation. For me, the two biggest issues were where can they be used and where can they be parked. I think we have mostly solved where they can be used. Tonight there is an amendment to allow bike lanes. Believe it or not, they were actually illegal on bike lanes. They can be used in the roadway. I don't recommend that, but they can be. I believe ultimately it would be good to get them on trails because at a limited speed of 15 miles per hour, they can be used safely, but I think we need a more community discussion on that. But hopefully that can happen. But where they're used is important because the sidewalks, even the scooter companies say don't use them on the sidewalks, and that's the #1 place they're being used, and that is dangerous. When the company itself says, before you rent this, please read my instructions, and you sign something saying, I read them, and it says don't use them on the sidewalk, and then you use them on the sidewalk, you are the reason we have legislation. So if people are wondering why we're doing this, that's why. Because somebody can't read instructions, press go, and then follow them. And we don't need people hit and run over on a sidewalk when they're just walking. The second problem is where they're parked. I don't understand sometimes the mentality of people, and I'm going to sound like that mean old man that takes the ball out of the yard and takes it in the house, but I don't understand the mindset of some of the people that get on these and realize, oh, I'm done now, cool, I'm going to leave it right here, because that'll be fun. When right here is in an ADA ramp, that's not acceptable. I'm not kidding. I was actually talking to a gentleman, and I said, what's the solution? What do you want to do? Because I'm going to find the company for that. What do you want to do? And he says, well, I don't want to find the company. That's the user's fault. I understand the user's gone, and the scooter's sitting there. I'm going to find the company. What would you recommend? He goes, well, the guy could just push it out of the way with the mobility unit. And I'm like, okay, we're just not talking anymore. So I don't want to find the company, okay? Understand, I don't want to find the company for a user's bad behavior. There is no other solution when somebody leaves a scooter sitting in an ADA ramp, or they leave it blocking a sidewalk. So again, the user's doing that, you're the reason we have legislation. You're the reason we're doing this. So hopefully with reasonable legislation in place, we can allow what I believe to be a very important multimodal solution for our city to be used responsibly. This fills the last mile. This helps the people get rid of a car, because now I can take the red line, I can take the bus, I can take Uber or Lyft. I'm hearing there's some relationships going on there. I can use the Pacers bike share, whatever I want to use. And now I've got this last little way to finish off. It's awesome. But we need reason and we need rules in place. I hope people see that's all we're trying to do as a council body, not take away the fun, not look like people that don't like technology. I'm IT. I've done IT for 30 years. I love IT. I love innovative solutions. So I'm hopeful we'll pass this tonight, allow these scooters back on the road, and people will use them responsibly and enjoy them in our city. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you to the City of Indianapolis for their work on this.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Councilor Fanning.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to echo a few of the comments of my colleague, Councilor Miller. I love scooters. I think they can play a really effective role, certainly in the first and last mile gap. I would like to encourage the companies to place them outside of the Mild Square and Broad Ripple so that they can actually be used for transportation rather than just recreation. I think that's important. But with the permission of Mr. President, I would like to ask a representative from Lime and or Bird to comment on their position on this proposal. I'd like to hear directly from them. And also any additional comments from Chief of Staff Cook.
So commenting on the proposal in regards of more equitable coverage, assuming, and that's what I'm speaking to?
Actually, just as the proposal as written tonight, that was just my own 2 cents of how I think scooters can be used more effectively for the vast majority of our citizens, but what is your position on what would you like the council body to do tonight? I'm curious to hear directly from Lyman Bird.
Yeah, so.
Oh, sir, if you don't mind, if you could introduce yourself, that would be
Yes,
great.
Jason Wild, Regional General Manager for Lime. My specific standing, I ultimately agree with you in regards to equitable coverage. I think we personally are out to become a mobility company, which means serving everybody reliably, affordably, make things accessible. So 100% on board with that. The only hesitation that we have is regarding the fee structure. So the fee structure in particular is currently 6 times higher than any other market that we operate in currently, which is precedent setting, and it makes it hard to have a sustainable business. So ultimately, that's what we're out to hope that you guys reconsider, but everything else we're fine with.
So, sir, assuming this is an up or down vote tonight, what would you prefer?
Up.
Very good. Councilor Oliver.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. A concern about the users, I guess this question from someone here from, take this question. Are the users...
Did you want someone to come up? Did you want Mr. Weld to come up?
Beg your pardon, Mr.
Did you want the gentleman to come back up?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Are the users, are they to be self-insured themselves, or you sell them a rider? I mean, what's going on there as far as liability of the user crashing into me or you or someone? Are they in the same status as a 15-year-old riding a bicycle? Where we stand on this?
So we carry liability insurance, as with all requirements to participate in shared mobility in all the cities that we operate in. Specifically to, and again, to any one particular instance, I'm not going to be able to comment on specifics without in-house counsel with me, which they are not here. I'm more than happy to elaborate on that further after consultation with them, but at this moment, I can't get into specifics on specific scenarios.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a relationship for the public.
Yeah.
The only requirements is that a person be 18 years old and have a credit card. Is that correct?
Correct. Currently, yes.
After that, do you have any liability? Are you held harmless for, is your bike and you're leasing it or loaning it to someone, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Now, what I'm getting to is, but you don't sell them any insurance, anything like that? They
No.
insure themselves?
Correct. We don't upsell on insurance and provide them added liability insurance. They are agreeing to our terms of service to participate and use the service, and there is no expectation of added insurance as a part of renting the vehicle.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Feaster.
Thank you, Mr. President. And if you might just stick around for a moment, because
Of course.
I will grant that they are fun. They look like something I would like to do. And I grant that there's been a lot of work on this amendment. But as I thought about it and did a little bit of research, you've introduced your company to other cities, and there has been a great deal of controversy. Some cities have banned the electric scooters, and other cities have created rules somewhat like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to know why you thought coming to Indianapolis and just setting up shop without approaching government or addressing any kind of legalities was okay.
Yeah, so to speak to that in particular, so we have actually been working with the city for quite some time to try and bring dock-free mobility to the city of Indianapolis. We were, convinced to come due to competitive reasons, given a competitor came into the space and nothing was happening to them. So we were trying to work alongside with that, but given a competitive landscape, we chose to follow. When we got the cease and desist letter, we did comply and pulled our scooters off the streets. So we came in for competitive reasons, and we pulled out because it was the right thing to do.
both companies just disregarded the fact that there should be some rules, there should be some outreach to the local government, and just went ahead and did business.
What I'm saying is that we have been reaching out and we have worked with the city to try and bring some ordinance to the table to address these concerns. And then, yes, we did follow through and we came into the market again due to competitive reasons.
And the outreach was before you began business?
100%.
Or during?
Yes.
Okay. That was not my understanding, but I would also like to interject. Someone mentioned police officers enforcing the code. Our police officers have plenty to do without this kind of enforcement. This is way down the list of priorities. I guess my thought is the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and I just don't see the companies being responsible to public safety, to other people that utilize the public right-of-way. And so unless I hear something really major tonight, I'm going to be a no vote. Thank you.
Can I comment on the safety part? May I comment on the safety part?
Please.
Thank you. Oh, please.
If you wanted to, please.
Yeah, so safety is the utmost importance to us. We're a very new company. This is a very new service. It's not something where there's a silver bullet that overnight all the problems are going to be solved, but it is something that we're working tirelessly on to make sure that we're educating our users on both safe behavior in the public right-of-way, as well as trying to educate and being a part of the community to make sure even non-users understand why we're here, and ultimately the reason we are a company and the reason we're in Indianapolis is to try and change the mobility landscape and make efficient transportation easier for everybody. That's not something that can be done without bumps in the road, but that's something that we're going to continue to work hard at, regardless of what happens today.
Mr. President.
Just a moment, please. Councilor Kreider.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question for the administration. We were told certain information about the fees during the committee hearing, and then afterward got information suggests it may not be as comparable, and I just want to hear some testimony from them about that on the application fee, the max fee that could be charged, and the fee per device, just to make sure we're in line with other cities.
Chief of Staff, would you mind?
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you.
I don't know who's asking.
So I have with me Mackenzie Higgins from our office as well, who's been working much more closely. So I may ask her to come up here and provide more concrete details. At a high level, though, I can tell you this fee structure wasn't grasped out of thin air. It was, in many respects, brought together by members of our administration, frankly, for the last few months, working with other cities around the country who are dealing with shared mobility issues, not just scooters, dockless scooters, but also dockless bikes. And I know Mackenzie can probably provide you a few examples. I don't really want to get into a back and forth of he said as to whether this is on par or some number of times higher than other cities. I can tell you we are comfortable that these fees reflect what fees are supposed to reflect, which is the estimated cost to the city. We believe there is going to be an additional enforcement cost, not necessarily on the public safety side, but on the administrative side and the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services. We're going to have to create a new regulatory framework for a new type of business. That's what the flat fee is intended to address. In addition, the $1 per day per scooter fee, which is utilized in other markets, that's not something unique to here. It's actually something that at least one of the scooter companies freely offered when they came to the market. That is our intention, to have that money be earmarked for bike and mobility infrastructure. So I know one of the criticisms has been that when we are, after this is adopted, theoretically telling scooter operators to be in bike lanes or on the street, well, if there aren't marked bike lanes, that could be less safe. We intend to have that $1 per day per scooter fee be earmarked for bike-related infrastructure. So that could be painting additional bike lanes, that could be additional bike racks downtown. It could be things that don't address scooters entirely but are for more traditional bicycle infrastructure. But we are comfortable that that fee is fair. I also would just say as a technical matter, though, and I'll defer to counsel to the counselor, Andy Mallon from the Office of Corporation Counsel, it does reflect, as I understand it, what the council would see as the statutory maximum. The Department of Business and Neighborhood Services and the license administrator will still have discretion to potentially adjust that on a case-by-case basis as we work with the companies and we work with the council on putting together a more fulsome regulatory framework at the department level before these licenses are issued, probably no earlier than August per the ordinance. I don't know if you're interested. I know McKinsey has some additional cities and what their structures are. We can either share that via testimony or share that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear some of that. I'd also just like to point out something from your testimony. This is not just scooters we're talking about. We're talking about all devices, just to remind people of that. It's not just two companies we're dealing with. But yeah, I would like to hear some details. Thank you.
Ms. Higgins, if you're going to state your name.
Mackenzie Higgins, project manager in the mayor's office. So just some examples of other peer cities. The city of Memphis has this technology. Bird is currently operating in that market. Their fee structure is a $500 permit application plus a $50 per device annually. So if you took 200 of these scooters and put it into the market, that would be $10,000. If you did 400, which is approximately what one of the companies entered into the market when they came, that would be approximately $20,000. So again, right on par with where our cost estimates are, actually a bit higher. They have a cap of $20,000 in Memphis. They also have the dollar per day in Memphis. So again, right on par with what this ordinance proposes. Chicago has a similar language. It's $50 per device plus a $250 application fee. That's for a 6-month pilot with a cap of 350 devices in the market. And so if a company was entering the market in Chicago and using as many as they were allotted, it'd be about $17,500 for a 6-month time frame. So that would be double that for the annual, which is what we're proposing. Obviously, Chicago's a bit of a bigger market, so we think Memphis is probably more comparable to the city of Indianapolis, which is why our fee is closer reflected to that. But most importantly, the fee was not necessarily derived from what others are doing, but was a reflection of the true costs we feel this service will cause the city as part of enforcement and for bike infrastructure.
If you don't mind, Councilor Simpson was next.
It's somebody from Bird and Lime. You could sit there. I just want to know who you are.
Me, Jason Wild, Regional General Manager for Lime.
I'm Mindy Westrick. I work at Faegre Baker Daniels representing Bird today. Unfortunately, Cameron from Bird wasn't able to make this meeting.
He wasn't able to make this meeting, as important as meeting was?
It is very important, but unfortunately, she had a previously scheduled vacation.
Vacation. Oh. Okay. I'm going to be nice. But this, to me, is, at least I'm going to speak for my constituent and for the people that came to me, and I work downtown. And I've seen the rudeness of these people riding these scooters, flipping people off. I'm coming up Delaware North, 2 people on a scooter coming south, heading at me, and then they decide to just crisscross in the middle of the street. We don't have the capacity to handle these scooters, and I recognize that. I talked to DPW about this, and the point is, to me, you show a lack of respect when both of you decide to put your scooters down on the street. We, 25 of us, sit up here. We create these rules. We respect people who respect them. But if you don't want to respect us, then how do you expect us to respect you? Because this is not good. I'm not talking to you because the lady's on vacation, but I hope you sent her a copy of this. But Indianapolis is a city of respect. We have rules, but I think that in the ultimate, what I'm not getting from you is your commitment to enforce what's going to be going on once these things get back on the street. And that's going to be a real issue. And the problem that I have is that you have to really show that you're going to really enforce these rules. Because if you don't, it's going to be murder out here. We don't have the capacity. I mean, I just feel strongly in my heart that the way they acted when they got these scooters, guy was texting on it, riding low, making all kind of things. I just need for you, and you to tell, you're going to have to show us, prove to us. I think Councilor Feaster is right. We need to see better than what we saw before. And all I'm saying to you is that people in Indianapolis, we respect each other. And if the people riding these scooters, just like the bicycles, they show a lot of respect. Some of them do act kind of silly, but we don't, the majority of them ride bicycles very well. We need these people riding the scooters to show that they are the same. You need to emphasize that, sir. And be sure to tell people that, because that's what Indianapolis people are looking for. My constituents looking for, not somebody pulling out in front of them, doing this and doing that. You're going to have to be on the street. I don't know, do you have technical people that ride around in the, in the streets making sure this thing is going right?
Yes, so we have...
I'll come up to the mic.
Could you come to the mic?
No worries. Yes, we have a full local staff.
How big is that staff?
Currently, it's about 15 individuals.
Okay.
And that is both people that will help pick up our scooters and help charge them, but also responding to customer service complaints. We operate 24/7, 365 days a year, because our scooters have to be.
That's good, but are they out there trying to catch those people that are not abiding by your rules and your regulation? Because it makes you look bad.
Yeah, so, I mean, we don't have an enforcement squad or anything along those lines.
Well,
but
it
we
seems
do.
to me you should take the scooters from them. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do, and you definitely have my commitment to work alongside everybody in this room, as well as everybody at the city, to make sure that education is top priority, as well as in any enforcement. We have the ability to incentivize and disincentivize users, and if people are repeatedly using it the wrong way, then we have the ability to terminate their accounts. So we have the ability to take that extra step to reward the good actors and penalize the bad actors.
So you're making a commitment before us right here and right now?
I do, yes.
I appreciate that. Can you tell the person that is on vacation that, I don't know how big their staff is. Do you know how big the staff is?
So in addition to the chargers, Bird currently has a fleet coordinator here in Indianapolis. It's
Just
a
a fleet
resident. Yes, but also Bird has and will continue to bring in what they call ambassadors, which serve to educate the riders and the public on how to properly use the.
So when are they going to get these ambassadors?
I will talk to them, and they've previously brought them in, but they'll continue to do that. They are also committed to do pop-up events.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand that. I know you
educate
can, but
users.
the point is that IMPD don't have it. We expect, if you got ambassadors, we expect to see them on the street saying, hey, you cannot be doing this. I mean, I ride the Mono Trail on the weekends, and those scooters came up there, at least 10 in a group, and it was just kind of crazy, and people were a little confused by that, because it's that kind of action that we need for you to show us that you want to help us to be good neighbors, and that's my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chief of Staff.
Yeah, I appreciate a little extra time. The one thing I just want to maybe summarize, because I know there are a lot of these concerns that Councilor Simpson and others have. From an administration perspective, we think Indianapolis is a wonderful, unique place where everyone should want to come, but it's worth noting that these are businesses. They operate nationally, and they're not here by accident. They're here because we currently don't have any regulation on the books that specifically deals with their business model. And they're not going to cities where the regulation is already in place. They're going to cities where it's at best ambiguous as to whether regulation is in place. So part of the reason there are so many questions is we really don't have rules that specifically deal with the type of business that they operate, and that's why we're here tonight. And I know for many of you it's felt like we're really assembling the plane as we go down the runway, because we've been on this very, very fast timeline. But these are exactly why, from an administration standpoint, we support putting in place this regulatory framework tonight, so that we can begin to not just have an opportunity to ask these companies politely to do something, but to have the ability from a regulatory standpoint to require them to do something. And the other thing I would say, sort of on behalf of the people who are using this service, who I think in good faith woke up one morning and saw them on the sidewalk and were very excited about having another option, whether it be for transportation or recreation. Under the rules we currently have now, which don't directly deal with the company specifically, the only enforcement mechanism we have for bad behavior is the users themselves, which is both logistically difficult because we do have police officers who are very busy and don't necessarily have the time or the inclination to be following people around on scooters. We also would argue it's not particularly fair. If these businesses aren't doing a good job of educating the people who are using them, we believe that's a company responsibility. And so by adopting the ordinance tonight, we're going to put ourselves in a position where we aren't just forced with either enforcing against individual users who might have in good faith walked by, said, oh, hey, a scooter, I'm going to use this impulsively, and didn't realize they were sort of wandering into this regulatory quagmire. But we also will have the ability to hold the companies accountable, which is ultimately, I think even the companies would admit, where the accountability should be. This is their business model. These are their scooters. And so while I understand we have a lot of these issues, we believe adopting this ordinance tonight is the first step toward being able to definitively answer them, not just get into this back and forth with the companies where we're asking them and we have to wait and see whether they're going to follow through.
Mr. President, I'd just like to say that I appreciate Chief of Staff, but the ending game in this is they landed on Mars, and there was no control whatsoever, and all I'm trying to do is the people out there, they just want to know that this company have people on the streets helping people to understand how to drive these things and make sure that they get where they're going. Docking station, there are a lot of still unanswered questions, but I think that we can move forward, but I just want to be guaranteed that they get people out here on the streets to make sure the ambassadors, whatever they call them, that they're out here making sure that they're doing the right thing, not breaking every law that we have to follow as we live in this city. And that's my whole point. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Council Coates, you are next.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few questions regarding sections 108 and 110. Specifically, which will BNS or IMPD be the primary enforcers of these?
Hi, Andy Mallon, Corporation Counsel. It depends on which, if it's a public safety matter, IMPD enforces it, right? So for example, if a, excuse me, if a scooter is blocking a sidewalk and they, were confiscated, that would need to be an IMPD officer. If it is a code violation having to do with a violation of their permit or something like that, that would be a code enforcement officer. So if it's a public safety issue, it's IMPD. If it's just regulatory, then it's BNS.
But might there be some overlap if a scooter is left in the middle of the sidewalk? It is a public safety issue, but it is also a code violation. So another question I have is, with the revenue that'll come in from these fees, will that fund additional enforcement? I won't bite.
Yeah, we need some clarification on that. I'm not sure that that was clear. Please.
Yeah, so this is if it's a operations, that would be IMPD, but if it's a code enforcement violation, it would be BNS responsible. If it was parked illegally, they can receive a parking ticket that could be administered by BNS as far as the enforcement goes. If it was egregiously parked, there's also an option for impounding the device.
Okay, what about my question regarding the fees? Will the fees be used for increased enforcement, funding more BNS positions?
I think that right now, if that is what appears is required, right? As you start to get out in the street, we see how many of these are deployed, we see where they're deployed, as it expands and contracts. That's all part of the learning process, and by the regulatory framework you're creating, BNS will be able to adjust as those needs arise.
Okay, thank you. And then one last question, not sure who can best answer this, but why was section 110 removed?
One second.
Sure.
I think it was just moved. I think it's moved from where it was included into another piece. So there's a strike through in one place in the same lane, just added to a different part of the same.
Yeah, I didn't see any similar language unless I missed it. Oh, okay, section E? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
No problem. Councilor Clay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two quick questions for me. I want to go back to something Councilor Feaster raised to one of the operators, and that was they had initial discussions with the city. Would you return to the lectern, please? You had you had preliminary discussions with the city prior to the rollout. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Was it from those strike? Do you know who in the administration you spoke with in those preliminary discussions?
So Kip 2 and our head of business development could probably answer that best because he was leading the conversations all the way back as early as I believe last December. So I'll let him answer that question.
Well, before he leaves, and I know he's more than competent to answer the question.
Yes.
But let me ask you this question. From whatever the fruit of that conversation was, were you led to believe that you could launch prior to legislation?
Based off of the lack of action through with a competitor in the market, we felt that we, at the time, were on good legal footing with scooters in particular.
Were you given the okay in one form or the other by the administration that you could launch prior to legislation?
We notified the mayor's office as well as all council members in advance of entering the market. Did we receive an official green light? The answer to that would be no. Did we receive an official red light? The answer to that would also be no.
So they did not tell you you could, did not tell you you couldn't, so you decided you would?
For competitive reasons, yes.
Thank you. No, I'm fine. Thank you, Kip. I'm always glad to see you, though.
Very good. Okay. Councilor McHenry.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I must say that I think that all of the councilors who have spoken so far this evening have done an excellent job and brought up some very good questions and concerns. And I must say that I agree with most of what has been already said. These do look like a lot of fun. We all have to agree on that. But safety for everyone who uses our streets, roads, sidewalks, trails needs to be addressed more. Enforcement of those who don't follow where they are used, where they are parked, is not really being, in my opinion, considered because our police are definitely they have more important things to do than worry about where a scooter is parked. Also, it was mentioned that BNS would be responding to the parking. How about on weekends and nights? How do you get a hold of BNS? And by the time you get a hold of them and they come out and look at it, the scooter's already been moved somewhere else maybe. But what I am hearing most from constituents is there seems to be too many riders that don't show respect for others while riding or while parking or showing respect for property. Another thing, as you all know, I used to be a teacher, and I used to take my classes downtown. I would hate to have thought that I would have had to have dealt with, well, I have 25 little first graders walking with myself and our chaperones that have a scooter try going through the middle of my class. That would be one other thing that could be another danger. And I think that it's important for children to take field trips. I feel we're putting the cart before the horse and should be thought out more, and not just this quick reaction, which seems to be the issue here, because this came about, the scooters appeared, They ended up on our streets, and bang, we had to do something. This was not, I knew nothing about it ahead of time, and I really feel that this is being pushed through.
Councilor Wessler.
Mr. President. I have a question, a couple of questions. One, the operator who is sanctioned, how do you stop him from running? Is there a place for the credit card to go in? And if there is, and this guy's a bad operator, can you take that credit card and put it in the system where he cannot operate another scooter as long as he's around? Number two, you can cancel their issue. The other one is I think before we put these scooters back on the street, I think it needs to be publicized in the local newspapers, the Indianapolis Star, on this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to be required of every user of these scooters. You're going to have to abide by these laws. Just not one publication, probably one day and a few days later. Number two or three, I would like to see your attorney come here and talk to us. You have not been able to answer the questions of my colleagues, and I think that would be very wise to have him show up and answer the questions that some of the counselors have asked. And so therefore, with that being said, I'm going to have you ask for a postponement on this whole thing and have it back with your attorneys here before we put these scooters on the streets again. Because I was down at the 4th of July, and they were running inside a marked off area, no vehicles, no bicycles or anything. And they were zipping through there in an area just north of, well, it was on Michigan Street, I can tell you. And I couldn't believe how fast they were going. You know, two of them were on the bike, by the way. So they didn't know the rules. These things were just dumped on the streets, and here we go for it. This is not a fairgrounds. These are city streets with real people, real cars, and real things can happen real bad, real quick. Thank you, Mr. President.
Should I answer the first question?
Mr. Johnson. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's important that we're clear on what this vote actually is tonight. We're creating a false dichotomy. I think that a vote in favor of this proposal this evening is a vote in favor of scooters and their operation, and a vote against this proposal is somehow going to remove these scooters from our city as a ban. And that's not what's happening this evening. What's happening this evening is we are voting to create the mechanism and dialogue to actually do anything related to this rather than letting it operate in free fall. We have companies that are willing to have conversations about what appropriate operation is and how we can educate users to do it better. We have companies that are at the table saying that they want to work with us. A vote against this proposal tonight is not advancing any of the things many of my colleagues have talked about. Is it instead saying that we have no power to have those conversations at all. So I would encourage my colleagues to support the proposal this evening because that is the best and most responsible way we can move forward with multimodal transportation that is innovative while also ensuring we're doing it in a way that is safe and responsible for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Additional comments?
There's a motion. It's not been seconded.
It has not seconded?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. Councilor Gray.
That 50-cent a scooter. Now, is they gonna play it in the wintertime when they can't use the scooters?
Good question. I think that's a question for the administration.
Yeah, so the application is filed annually, and so they have to apply. At that point in time, they'll say how many are in their inventory, and we'll anticipate that that will be their inventory for the entire year.
Even when it's not in use?
Because there's no way to predict that, and so it'll just be on their application. As the regulatory process will establish, if they apply to increase their fleet size and that's approved, they'll then pay at that point forward.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Councilor Wessler.
Thanks, Mr. President. With what I was talking about, I would like to propose that this all be sent back to the committee to have evaluated further before these scooters get back on the streets, before harm can come to either the rider or the pedestrians.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Yes, Councilor Adamson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, just to reiterate what Councilor Johnson said, again, this is an important framework that needs to be in place, and I don't think that sending them back to the committee process really gives us anything that we were discussing throughout this whole meeting today. So I would urge my colleagues to vote against a motion to send this back to committee. Thank you.
Councilor Pfister.
Thank you, Mr. President. My thought process about sending it back to committee is, from what I've heard tonight, this birthing process is not complete and needs to have additional eyes on it, additional conversation. So I would be supportive of sending it back to committee for further discussion.
Thank you. Councilor Scales.
Yeah, I think it's important to get an ordinance such as this one out as soon as possible, but I believe that we should have a companion ordinance that deals with regulations of users, the actual scooter riders, at the same time that we have an ordinance that regulates the operators coming out. And I would like to see that. And I think it's worth doing our due diligence. As many people in the committee meeting said, that we really need to make the safety of our residents the priority. Thank you.
Councilor McHenry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with both Councilor Pfister and Councilor Scales. Safety should be number one, and we also need to address, we can say whatever we want, but being truly addressed as to who is going to do enforcement, how that enforcement is going to be carried out, has not been really the well thought out or proposed. So until we have some regulations here that, and tell us how we're going to do the enforcement, then I think it needs to go back to committee and we need to address those issues.
Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to be really clear because I've heard a lot of counselors tonight who seem to have concerns about the operations of both the businesses and the users and seem to be saying they want to send this back to committee because they don't want the businesses to operate until those concerns are addressed. I want to be brutally honest with the council. The only reason these companies are not operating in the city right now is because they have voluntarily decided to do so in advance of tonight's vote. I know many of you, and the media has also reported this, as a cease and desist notice. There is no cease and desist notice for these companies. The city has not, as of yet, produced any legal reason why they cannot operate writ large. My suggestion to you would be that sending back this committee will likely produce within the next 24 to 48 hours both companies redeploying on city streets, meaning that the very concerns you're seeking to address will not just be unaddressed for the period of time the council takes to deliberate this in committee and then adopt it at a future council meeting, but they will be unaddressed while the businesses are operating, unlike if this is adopted, in which case upon the mayor's signature it will be illegal to operate any scooter company or a shared mobility company in the city unless a license is issued by BNS. That license cannot be issued any sooner than August 1st. The BNS department would be going through a rulemaking process that could take longer than that, meaning that it may well end up being that the council would have an opportunity to address those public safety concerns at a future council meeting prior to any licenses being issued by the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services. But I do want all of you to vote with eyes wide open tonight. Voting to send this back to committee is more likely than not to produce an outcome where these companies are back operating on the street this week without any regulations in place beyond what we currently have, which I know many of you have expressed has been frustrating to you because you feel like the council and the administration have not had the ability to regulate these public safety issues. So I just wanted to let you know there has been no legal cease and desist notice from the city, and these companies are voluntarily off the road but could change that literally in the next few hours if this is not adopted this evening, and I just wanted you all to be aware of that before you voted.
Councilor Clay.
Mr. President, I am troubled by the comments of the Chief of Staff in that he is saying there is currently no cease and desist order. We can't legislate through misdirection or misinformation. At least this counselor was led to believe that these businesses had halted practices and operation because of a cease and assist. And we're hearing now that that is not the case. That's a bit troubling to me. How did we get there with that misinformation?
I think we can clarify. Please go ahead.
Right. So, again, Andy Mallon, Corporation Counsel. The city has never issued a cease and desist order. We don't have a basis to order either of these companies or any other company.
But how did we get?
We requested that they do so.
Okay.
We requested that they do so that this body can deliberate and come up with something to provide a license to
So
permit
the
it.
city used that terminology, the media picked that up, and we're off to the
Yes,
ballgame.
this was
Okay.
a request that they voluntarily take it off. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. One last question, if you would tolerate it. I haven't been on a scooter, but in any event, I guess in terms of operation of the person that's leasing it, clearly we would have rules in place that would preclude the leasing of a scooter of an individual that is intoxicated, right? Have we addressed that, or could we be advancing this, and then would either company, do we have knowledge that either company would lease knowingly to somebody that was intoxicated or not intoxicated when they leased it, but then leased it and went out and got intoxicated? Where are we in that process of thought?
Chief of Staff, please.
Yeah, I can't answer with 100% certainty. I will tell you, and if there's anyone from the Marion County Prosecutor's Office here, I'd welcome them to come up. My understanding is that the laws on the books about regulating a motor vehicle while intoxicated would apply to this vehicle with a motor in it. So I don't want to say that as legal advice for anyone watching on Channel 16.
Because you're not an attorney, right?
Well, yeah, and I certainly don't play one on TV.
Right,
but
that's the point I was going to make.
Our understanding is that the existing laws as relates to motor vehicles would apply in this instance. Now, as your question as to the companies, I'll let them speak to themselves.
Okay.
Mr. Well, did you want to make a comment?
In regards to that riding while intoxicated, we do in our user agreement call that out specifically as a infringement upon the user agreement. So we definitely do call that out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think what Chief of Staff Cook basically said is the scooter companies have put a gun to our heads. But on the other hand, I do think we have a responsibility as government to be nimble and try to get things done quickly. So while I don't like having a gun behind my head, I also think we need to get this moving. And I hope that we do not send it back to committee and we get it resolved. I would ask, though, that we consider creating a sub-account for the money that is supposed to go to infrastructure, because we actually have a proposal later tonight about a parking meter fund that was not used for parking meters. So it is important that we make sure that's where the money goes. If that's what we're going to do, it needs to say that. It's a shame we have to do that, but I think we do. But let's please move this forward tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Oliver.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just on the procedure here, Proposal 120 was moved in second, and then another motion was put on the floor to move it back to committee. Where are we at, and what are we voting on? Is that proper to receive that motion to send it back to the committee? Does that trump the original motion to accept proposal number 120?
You want to answer that? Councilor Biesecker.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, we have the proposal 120, the question is on final adoption of proposal 120. We also have a motion to amend proposal 120 that's been moved and seconded. We also now have a motion to send it back to committee, and under the council rules, the motion to send it back to committee is to be voted on before the motion to amend is voted on. So that's the way it would work here. Yeah, motion.
All right. Are there any additional comments from Councilor Gray?
I think we have labored on this long enough. I think that it's time now for us to either vote it up or vote it out.
Councilor McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've heard from both Republican and Democratic councilors tonight who have concerns, grave concerns about this as written. We've heard from the administration that there are laws in place already, i.e. motorized vehicles can't be driven on sidewalks. And if IMPD sees that, I'm sure they would address it. At the same time, though, I'm very cognizant of we need to be careful about putting a whole new layer of laws and regulations on the books. 7 or 8 years ago, we passed legislation, for example, to clamp down on panhandling within 50 feet of intersections. Our public safety officials are so overworked these days that I don't see much enforcement going on for that. And quite honestly, I wouldn't ask them to be out there worrying about that when there are more important crimes to be concerned with. Why are we going to have this whole new list of regulations here? Why are we going to have these high fees, higher than many cities? I think the Councilor Wessler's suggestion and the feeling of members of both parties to send this back to committee might be the wisest choice of action. We do not have a gun to our head. We do not have no choice as to how we vote on this tonight. We have to vote the best interests of our constituents, and I'll be voting to send it back to committee. Thank you.
Councilor Scales.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I do think that rather than go for speed in rolling this out as quickly as possible, that we are careful and we are deliberative in what we put forward, and to make sure that it includes all that needs to be included, or maybe even excludes some things that are unnecessary. But I believe just the fact that we're taking this much time to discuss this evening, that so many questions have been posed, so many concerns have been posed, that we would be wise to take our time and roll out something that we are all comfortable with, or the majority of us are comfortable with. I just also, Councilor Simpson mentioned that we're a city of respect. He expects respect from the operators in order to get respect. And the gentleman from Lime stated that the reasons they rolled out their electric scooters, even though they've been working with the city, was because their competitor came in, and it was to make sure that they didn't lose their marketing edge. But if you look at newspaper reports from across the country, I have New York Times pulled up here, I read in San Francisco Chronicle, other papers, that they have done this same type of thing, just dropping e-scooters into cities without the city officials' foreknowledge, and then, forcing the cities to come up with some regulation or just dealing with it. And in terms of whether they've been cooperative in working with the cities and wanting to make sure that whatever rules are there are enforced, in Santa Monica, there was, I have a report here that I believe it was Byrd. The city had filed violations against them for operating a mobile vending business and for not complying with citations that were issued to them. And the company pleaded no contest and paid a settlement of $300,000. So they ignored the city's rules and the citations issued to them. This does not bode well, and that is more reason why we need to make sure that what we have, the language of any ordinances, are enforceable, and we have the resources to enforce them.
Councilor Johnson.
Just one more time. The only way to have reasonable conversations about the things my colleagues have rightly raised this evening is to pass this proposal tonight to create the mechanism by which those conversations can occur. The appropriate course of action is to vote no on postponing this, no on sending it back to the committee, and moving forward tonight so we can have these conversations so this can operate in a way that makes sense for our city and for our citizens. I don't disagree with a lot of things that have been said. These are all reasonable things we have to talk about, but the only mechanism by which those conversations happen is through this proposal and voting in favor of it. So because there are like 17 motions on the floor right now, the appropriate step is to vote no right now to pass this tonight and to get something on the books so we can have a conversation about how to do this correctly.
Chief.
No, I appreciate all of that. I'd just like to reiterate again, the administration is asking you to vote against sending this back to committee. The one thing I would remind the council, there are a lot of questions. That is why we've specifically written this with so many of the decision points as it relates to regulation being vested in the department. The board of the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services will be meeting to adopt additional regulations on this in the coming weeks. We request councilor support and engagement in that process. I also would defer to Council Biesecker on this particular point, but those regulations will come back before council potentially, so this body will have an opportunity to have an actual up and down vote on those additional regulations, which should hopefully address many of the concerns you have tonight. By postponing this and sending it back to committee, none of those options are going to be available to the council, at least until the next council meeting. And in the interim, I'd like to stress that sending this back to committee, for those who do have concerns about operations, is in effect putting us back where we were about a week ago when the companies were all operating. And I just don't want any councilors to be surprised by that or express frustration to the administration if these companies begin operating again, should they send this back to committee this evening. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Can I call for a question?
Yes, please. Please.
Call for the question.
Thank you. Second. All right, there is a motion on the floor that's been properly seconded to send this back to committee for, well, call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No, I'm sorry. All those in favor of coming to the vote? And debate. All those in favor? Any debate? Aye. Opposed? All right, very good. Now, we have a motion and a second to send this proposal back to committee. We will vote green button yes to send it back to committee, red button no to vote on it tonight. All right, the motion fails, 17 to 8. Now, we have a motion on the floor to amend Proposal 120. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any additional comments on the amendments, on the proposed amendments? All right, then we will come to a vote on Proposal 120. As amended. Sorry. Yes. Well, actually, forgive me. We will come to a vote on the amendments for Proposal 120. That motion carries 19 to 6. Now, we will come to a vote on Proposal 120 as amended. Yes. Thank you. And now, we'll come to a vote on Proposal 120. Councilor Gray. The motion carries 19-6. The next item on our agenda is Proposal Number 205, referred to Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. Chairman Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal 205, 2018 approves transfers totaling $150,000 in 2018 budget of the Indianapolis Fire Department for station maintenance and repairs and contract materials, including costs for supplies, per city plumbing, electrical, and mechanical contracts. Ernest Malone, Chief of IFD, stated that neither of these items are a request for additional funds, but transfers between characters. He said they are requesting a transfer of $150,000 in the Fire Community Fund from Character 4 to Character 3 for needed station repairs of the driveways and fire stations. Chief Malone also said he needed costs for supplies per plumbing, electrical, and mechanical costs. Councilor Coates moves, seconded by Councilor Feaster, to send proposal number 205 to the full council. They do pass recommendation. Motion carried by a vote of 9-0. Mr. President, I so move.
Motion's been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. Motion carries 22-0. The next item on our agenda is Proposal Number 228, referred to Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. Chairman Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal 228, 2018 approves and adopts the Marion County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan Update dated July 2018. Katie Robinson, the Director of Office of Sustainability, reviewed these notes about the plan. It protects people and property from the effects of hazards by developing mitigation strategies to reduce or eliminate long-term risks. The goals for 2018 are to enhance public awareness, increase resilience by ensuring that hazard mitigation and climate change initiatives are prioritized, coordination of actionable mitigation practices, data-driven implementation strategies, reinforce local policies, and make sure Marion County residents are prepared to survive 72 hours without assistance. Councilor Simpson moves, seconded by Councilor Scales, to send proposal number 228 to the full council. They do pass recommendation. The motion carried by a vote of 9-0. Mr. President, I so move.
Second. Motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any comments from councilors? Councilor Fanning.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would, Madam Clerk, if I could please be added as a co-sponsor, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. Councilor Simpson.
Yes, sir. Oh, the vote?
The motion carries 24-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 230, referred to Metropolitan and Economic Development Committee. Chairwoman Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal number 230 amends the code to revise outdated terminology and revise requirements for solicitation on private premises and adds a non-solicitation registry implemented by the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services and impose a nighttime solicitation curfew for all city residents. Donnie Morgan with the City of Indianapolis stated that Section 391-104 has not been updated since its adoption in 1975. Finally, Mr. Morgan stated that they have reviewed how other jurisdictions have updated similar ordinances. The proposal passed out of committee by a vote to 9-0. Mr. President, I so move.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Councilor McHenry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know this was brought up during committee, but I want to bring it up again, that solicitation does not apply to political, and there's some other religious, there are some other exceptions to this, so I did want to bring that up for the record. I know it was brought up in committee, but I did want to bring that up again in full council. And if anybody, if we have an attorney who wants to address that a little further, that'd be fine.
You want to get one of the...
If you,
Mr. Mallon, would you come forward?
Andy Mallon, Corporation Counsel, I agree, Counselor. It does not include political activity or religious activity. Thanks.
So, does that answer your question? Okay, very good. Councilor Scales.
Thank you, Mr. President. Subsection A1 of the ordinance reads, I'm not sure if a change was made, I don't have those notes, but that it states if a notice is posted on or near the entrance of a residence stating that that particular homeowner does not want to be bothered by a solicitor, or if that a notice is posted somewhere on the property that can be seen, that the vendor could face some kind of punitive action by violating that section of the ordinance. And that's pretty much been around for many, many years. But vendors repeatedly violate the ordinance, even if homeowners have signs posted on their property. I'm not sure, I'm all for getting an ordinance that has more teeth, that would prevent vendors from bothering homeowners that do not want to be bothered, but I'm not sure if having a registry formed and the costs associated with it and implementation, all of that, is the way to go, because I don't believe vendors who will ignore signs already posted that say no soliciting are going to make it their business to go downtown, find the registry list, abide by it. And I think we know from experience, most of us, that we've had people who are pushy and will violate the terms of this ordinance regardless. So I'd like to see something else done that would be a better enforcement of no solicitation requests, but I don't believe this is the way to go, and I'd like to see something else worked on.
Thank you. Any additional comments from councilors? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. The motion carries 24-1. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 231, referred to Public Works Committee. Chairman Adamson.
Thank you, Mr. President. With consent, I would like to take proposals 231 through 36. Thank you. Proposal number 231 authorizes parking restrictions on Orley Road from Sandsted Road to County Line Road in District 20. Proposal number 232 authorizes parking restrictions on East 15th Street and Bellefontaine Streets near College Avenue in District 11. Proposal number 233 authorizes intersection controls at Harding Street and Waterway Boulevard in District 11. Proposal 234 authorizes parking restrictions on Brookside Parkway South Drive from Sherman Drive to Rural Street in District 17. Proposal 235 authorizes parking restrictions on Court Street between White River Parkway West Drive and Harding Street in District 16. And Proposal 236 authorizes parking restrictions on Court Street near Delaware Street in District 11. All of these proposals were voted on and moved to the full committee with a due pass recommendation, passed with the votes of 7-0, and I so move.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. Any comments from councilors? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. Motion carries 25-0. Next item on our agenda is proposal number 238. Referred to Public Works Committee, Chairman Adamson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal number 238 authorizes intersection controls at Talbot Street and 18th Street and 21st Streets in District 11. Nathan Sheets of DPW stated that proposal number 238 was was a filing error, and that such changes presented and approved by the council last year. Councilor Osley moved, seconded by Councilor Gray, to send proposal 238 to the full council with a move to strike recommendation, and that motion carried by a vote of 7-0, and I so move.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor? Forgive me. We will proceed to the board for our votes. Madam Clerk, if you can prepare the board. All right. Motion carries 25-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 239, referred to Public Works Committee, Chairman Adamson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal number 239 amends the code to adopt a new provision within Chapter 621 regarding residential parking permit program to formally establish the program and provide a mechanism for more enforcement. Councilor Gray moved, seconded by Councilor Kreider, to send proposal 238 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. That motion carried by a vote of 7-0, and I so move. 238. I'm sorry. 239. Okay, my mistake. Sorry.
Was there a second?
I have it.
Okay. All right. It's been moved and seconded.
Yeah. Mr. President, I have a motion to amend. I move to amend Section 1 of Proposal Number 239, 2018 by deleting the zones that are highlighted and double stricken through, and by adding an additional residential permit parking zone at the end of the list in Section 621-130A, as per highlighted double underlined language below, and to amend Section 2 of the proposal to change the penalty fee in Section 103-52 by deleting the language that is double stricken through and adding the double underlined language as per the highlighted portion to read as follows. And the stricken through part removes Alpine Avenue, Patton Drive, and and adds Dr. Martin Luther King, and from West Street to 9th Street. And
9th Street to 10th Street.
I'm sorry, 9th Street to 10th Street, yes. And I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. A motion to amend. Any comments from fellow councilors? Seeing none. All those in favor of the amendment to proposal 239?
Go to the board.
Well, we're going to the board. But thank you.
It's late.
Yeah, yes. Councilor Jackson. Councilor Scales. Very good. The amendment passes 25-0. Proposal number 239, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any additional comments? Proposal 239 as amended. Seeing none, we'll come to a vote on proposal 239 as amended. Councilor Wessler? Sorry, Councilor Wessler? All right. That proposal as amended carries the vote of 24-1. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 240, referred to Public Works Committee. Chairman Adamson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The final proposal of the evening, proposal number 240, 2018, amends the code to adopt new provisions within Chapter 621 and 986 regarding temporary closure of metered spaces. Councilor Kreider moved, seconded by Councilor Coates, to send proposal number 240 to the full council with a due pass recommendation, and that motion carried by a vote of 7-0, and I so move.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any comments from councilors? Councilor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be brief because this is the last one and I want to get home too. But this is really important. This has been a 2-year effort to make transparent a completely non-transparent practice that the previous administration put in place, which was to grant free parking meter baggings for anyone that walked in the office and said, can I please have free parking meter baggings? And I do mean that because if you look at this sheet that I provided, the top grantee was a $285,000 grant to a private developer, which I would not have thought we would be doing that type of thing, but we did, with no transparency. This did not go through the council. This was a tax incentive that someone with a stamper in a room granted. The second one below is $130,000 to our friends in the State House who get free parking meters every time they meet, I guess, because they must have less money than us, I guess, or maybe not. But anyway, then you add all this up, you get $600 and what are we? $53,000. $653,000. This is 2017. So, yeah. I don't know where else this is happening in the administration. I hope it isn't happening anywhere else. And again, I repeat, the previous administration put this in place, but again, this is 2017, so the current administration continued it. This is where we need to watch for this stuff. This is $653,000 that was not used for paving roads and sidewalks, and instead was given to people to have meters bagged so they could do races and build property, I guess. Huge kudos to the man sitting in the back. Director Parker, as soon as I pointed this out to him, immediately put in practices to change this. So this will be phased out. It is not being phased out immediately because some of these folks, not the private developers, but some of these folks rely on this, and they've been granted it for several years, so we can't just take it away immediately. But by 2020, we won't see this anymore, other than the state, which is a different issue we need to look at later. But yeah, executive orders should not allow non-transparency of taxpayer dollars, and they have been for quite some time. So I do hope we'll support this tonight, and I hope we'll all keep an eye out for this type of thing. I literally found out about this, by the way, because I was so annoyed that I couldn't find a parking place because all the meters were bagged. And I said, why are they bagged? And somebody said, oh, it's for a race. I'm like, really? Do we do that very often? And I got this spreadsheet, and from there it's been a long battle. But anyway, huge kudos to Director Parker. Fantastic person, fantastic director. He made it happen. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Additional comments? Councilor Adamson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just really quickly, just to give a hat tip to Councilor Miller, for those of us that are concerned with infrastructure, as we've seen over the last couple of years, these are not just arbitrary general fund dollars. These are infrastructure dollars. These dollars get put back into our roads around the cities, around at least in the metered areas. So, and those dollars spent in metered areas can be redirected into our neighborhoods. So, this revenue will be a welcome addition to our infrastructure revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments? All right, seeing none, we'll come to an immediate vote on proposal 240. The motion carries 25-0. There is no business under Special Service District Councils, and there is no...
Can I be added to proposal 275, Lakeisha Jackson's proposal? I want my name to be a sponsor on that. Thank you.
Noted. There is no business under new business. The next item on our agenda is announcements and adjournments. The docketed agenda for this meeting of council having been completed, the chair will now entertain motions for adjournment.
Mr. President.
The chair recognizes Councilor McQuillan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been asked to offer the following motion for adjournment. By Councilor Oasley in memory of Linda Parrott, Alicia Smith, and Dr. Freeman Martin III. By Councilor McQuillan in memory of Julie Powell, John K. Snyder, and Dina Nelson Slater. By Councilor Feaster in memory of James W. Clay and Marlene Beal. By Councilor Wessler in memory of Carmita Wright and Bernice Burt Paschal. By Councilor Cordy in memory of Mark Hunter and Gary Robinson. Mr. President, I would like to move the adjournment of this meeting of the Indianapolis City County Council in recognition of and respect for the life and contributions of those persons I've here specifically named. I respectfully ask the support of fellow councilors. I further request that a motion be made a part of the permanent record of this body, and that a letter bearing the council seal and the signature of the President be sent to the family of each person advising of this action.
Thank you, Councilor McQuillan. Hearing no objections, the motion is received and the request is so ordered. Hearing no further motions, we're adjourned.